Pilates Unfiltered is supported by our sustaining sponsor, Pilates Anytime. With over 3,000 streaming Pilates videos, including mat and equipment classes, you can find an offering for any level of practice. The best part, you get to study with the Pilates industry's top teachers in the comfort of your own home or studio through the most comprehensive online Pilates resource available. Join an active, fun online community where you will not only experience the Pilates work deeper in your own body, but you'll also expand your understanding of the method as a whole. Visit PilatesAnytime.com today and use the code PODCAST to start your free 30-day trial. Hey friends, this is Jenna Zaffino and we're about to get down and dirty with the straight talk of Pilates. This show is about bringing the conversations we have behind closed studio doors out into the open to learn, laugh, connect, and get inspired. My guest this week is Pilates professional Erin Myers. Erin is an international presenter on scoliosis and the founder of Spiral Spine, a company designed to enrich the lives of others with scoliosis. Our conversation is passionate, fun, so energetic, and you're going to learn a lot about the possibilities. I can't wait for you to hear it. So, my friends, it's that time again. Sit back, relax those hard-working bodies. You deserve it. Here we go with another episode of Pilates Unfiltered. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 103. How are you this week? I'm doing great. I just got back from a weekend getaway to Florida. And for those of you who think that sounds fancy and tropical, it was neither of those things. It was a work weekend and it rained the whole time. But this time I got to work with my remote team that normally only happens virtually. And we got to meet in person and we got so much accomplished. I'm really excited to tell you all about it. We're soon in the next couple weeks. This is the team that's helped me produce some of the things like this podcast. Also, the Find Your Pilates Purpose quiz, my Teach from the Heart membership, my online coaching programs, Gem Seekers, and the Passion Project. They are behind me every step of the way. They're truly a project management team. They do some other things for me as well, but they're the people who help me think an idea through from start to finish and expedite all of the tiny steps in between, because most of the time I am creating in a room by myself, which I actually prefer, but in order to get it out into the community in a way that's of service and considerate of time and also usability, especially online, it helps to have help. And in the beginning, I thought, I'll just hire a virtual assistant for a couple months and just see how that goes. This was at the time where my longtime assistant was transitioning out of my business, and I thought, I'll just have her for a couple months and just support myself in that way. And now, almost a year later, we are taking over the world. No, I'm just kidding. But we've come up with some really, really fun things. And I'm going to be unrolling a new training in just another month and actually a couple weeks. So look forward to that. For you, it's a training on just taking some inventory about how you're managing your own needs. And it'll be complimentary. So keep your eyes open for that. And there's also some other opportunities coming that are going to be fun. I just love the online work that I do. It allows me to work with people from all over the world, including right now we're in the US, UK, Madagascar, I kid you not, Singapore, Bahrain, where else are we? I know I'm missing someplace. We've been in Australia a bunch of times, but these groups that I run are just so amazing. And our membership spans all over the world. We've got Saudi Arabia, it's just amazing. And our listener base spans all over the world. I haven't checked in a while how many countries we're in now. We must be well over 100. We were at 94 probably last year. So anyways, I digress. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to work with so many professionals across the world. And this weekend was an opportunity to remind myself of the gift that it is not only to be able to reach out into the ears and into the screens and sometimes in person with the people who I work with, but also to be supported in those endeavors. And so I share this with you because this has been a long time in process of making it to this point where I've been able to gather the right team and find the support that I needed. And I know a lot of you are like, I want those people. I want a support team to do the things for me. And I just wanted to share the story and also give you a little insight as to the team behind me became exponentially more valuable once I decided what I wanted. So under my direction, they can take my ideas and run with them because they have so much more information about automating and systematizing and communication and even sales in some respects to be able to create the processes around my idea that support it fully. So if you're sitting there and you're looking for help is one thing. And I actually wrote a blog post about this week. It's like when you have help from somebody, just a body that's coming on and you're going to teach them how to help you and what to do in your business, generally speaking, there will be growth because there'll be some ease that comes into your world, but there will also be kind of a theme of meeting your business where it is right now. Working with someone who has a level of expertise in something, however, means that you're not only going to be attending to the needs of your business or your work right now, but you're also going to be setting yourself up for the future. And so that's been a real gift and blessing. And if you are a movement teacher, a budding entrepreneur, someone who's listening to this saying, I want to start my own program, or I want to do what you do, Jenna, or I want a team, or I want to launch an online situation, whatever it is, my advice to you is to get clear on what it is you want. I always go back to my girl, Raw Goddess, who has a new book coming out, by the way, called The Calling. It's just every single person who wants to open a business should get this book. And I'm not being paid or influenced or anything like that to say it. It's just that I know her work is so impactful. And what she advises everyone to know or to figure out is your mission, your vision, and your purpose. This is not anything that's new to anyone who's looked into the entrepreneurial end of things. And this also applies to teachers, by the way. But Ra says your mission is, she says, who you be, who you are. Who are you? That's your mission, how you show up. What are the unique gifts that you bring to the table every single week, every single day? What do you show up with that's natural for you? Where do your talents lie? Who are you? Who are you? It's a hard question to ask, but the more you ask it, the more you get clear on it. The second question, or the second category, is your vision, which is how you love. So what is it that you do with these gifts? Where do you show up? Where are you called to show up? If you're a teacher, is it private sessions, group classes, a combination of both? Is it in a bigger forum presenting? Is it in a small studio? Is it by yourself, or is it with a team? How do you show up? How do you share your gifts? How do you spread love? And then the last part is your purpose, which is how you lead and the areas of impact that you want to create in your life with your work, or a combination of both. I'll tell you, these three elements have been so pivotal for me to go back to time and time and time again and check in, because it's okay to change over time. It's okay to change maybe what your focus is, or which gift is showing up the strongest, or which one is growing, or what have you. It's okay to change your focus over time. But through consistent inquiry, we really start to understand how we're going to direct someone to support us. Believe me, I have hired more people in the world in the name of supporting myself and my business. And the problem that you face when you're not abundantly clear on what you're here to do and who you're here to do it for and where you're here to do it and what the result of the doing is going to be, you kind of end up in a room creating work that may not be contributing to the whole of what you're trying to create in your world. It might be filling a hole, make you feel like you're busy, but busy work doesn't always move the needle forward. You get me? So check out Ra. It's Raw Goddess, RHA Goddess. She is one. She's got some beautiful Facebook Lives out right now. She's on a big book promotion tour, but what she's doing is these really interesting roundtable discussions with a lot of influencers, not like the type that tell you what shoes to buy or clothes to wear or products or whatever, but people who are really creating change with their work. And she is absolutely in that vein. So I hope that served you. And clearly this week I'm in my entrepreneurial mind, having just come back from a big work trip. But I think it's important for us to know that this is possible. And if entrepreneurship is not your jam, that's cool. You can always apply the techniques and processes to what it is you're doing right in your sessions, by the way. You figure out who you are, who you want to love, and how you're going to lead them and the impact you're going to create. Guarantee your sessions up level in a heartbeat. So hope you enjoyed that. We've got a wonderful interview coming your way, but right now we're going to get to our workshop of the week. Brought to you by PilatesAnytime.com, this week's workshop of the week is number 3775, entitled The Aston Postural Assessment. We're talking posture, ground reaction force, gravity, mobility, and neutral. These are all subjects I love to geek out with. In this 1 hour long workshop, you're going to learn how to smooth out uneven movements through a postural assessment for Pilates work with Judith Aston. She gives you tools that you can use to see body patterns so you can understand what's happening in your own body, and shares how you can find your best neutral so that you can experience motion throughout your entire body using that ground reaction force. And when she's talking neutral, it's not about neutral pelvis or neutral spine particularly. It's more along the lines of that, like ground zero. What's the center point? How do you work around it? How do you get back to it? I love, love, love this workshop. If you're a Pilates Anytime member, you can get on over to the site, log in, and purchase this workshop. It comes 1 hour again in 5 chapters, including all of the exercises and then also how to apply these concepts to your Pilates work. Beautiful workshop. If you're not a member, become one today by visiting PilatesAnytime.com and using the code PODCAST. When you do, you'll get a free 30-day trial of the site, including all of the classes and the opportunity to take some of these beautiful workshops as well. This episode is sponsored in part by the Pilates Nerd. Pilates Nerd is proud to be part of the Pilates Unfiltered community. They create products that allow you to wear your Pilates enthusiasm with pride. With familiar and fun phrases such as Pilates moves me, I speak Pilates, and be the person your reformer thinks you are, Pilates Nerd has your back. Hey, they've got that on a t-shirt too. They carry both women's and men's products from extra small to plus sizes, and Pilates Nerd has something for every Pilates lover because they love Pilates just like you. Visit PilatesNerd.com today to choose the next item in your inspired Pilates wardrobe. All right, my friends, it's interview time, and our interviews are brought to you by ProfitablePilates.com and Miss Leslie Logan, who has 2 webinars every single month. They're 1 hours, focused on your business, and they break down the things you need to know to do more of what you love. Find out more by visiting ProfitablePilates.com. Thank you so much, Leslie, and our guest this week. I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time because it was so much fun. Miss Erin Myers, I said at the start of the program, she presents internationally on scoliosis. She's the founder of Spiral Spine, a company designed to enrich the lives of others with scoliosis, and she is located in Nashville, Tennessee. So she pursues her passion there of helping those with scoliosis through Pilates in her studio. Her teaching philosophy is simple: enriching people's lives through anatomically correct movement. Her unrelenting mission to find the root cause of movement dysfunction, combined with lighthearted and accessible teaching style, draws in devoted clients of all ages. The Spiral Spine offers a growing set of scoliosis resources, including Erin's books, Analyzing Scoliosis, The Beautiful Scoliotic Back, My Scoli Journal, and downloadable exercise workouts like Hardcore Scoli. Erin has also created a number of continuing education videos about scoliosis, and she also has an app called the Scoliometer by Spiral Spine. It allows practitioners and users to measure vertebral and rib cage rotation, helping a practitioner to better manage one's scoli. You are going to love this interview. This is a person who oozes passion for the subject that she educates about and works with every day. And I just loved meeting her and having a good time. Stay tuned for some real information as well as some giggles. Here's Erin Myers. Good morning, Erin. How are you?
Good morning, Jenna. I'm so good.
So good. We're meeting each other nice and early in the morning. And this only happens when you have two passionate individuals who are ready to talk about all things spine and Pilates and movement and all of it.
Exactly. The true nerds of the industry.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll wake up at the most, obscene hours to get talking about our work for sure. That's how you can spot a Pilates person or movement person a mile away when they're just like, they'll be on death's bed and they'll be like, but one more thing about the transverse abdominal before I go. It's important that we remember.
Awesome. True statement, Jenna.
We're a passionate group. We're a passionate group. So I'm going to start us off and just ask you my favorite question, which is, what is inspiring you right now in your own movement practice or in your teaching or presenting work?
The issue that I am continually dealing with is the emotional side of scoliosis. For the past 10 years, I've been elbow deep into research about movement and what movements research has proven help scoliosis. And I have fleshed that out. My last book, Analyzing Scoliosis, talks about that. I have over 60 research references, and I meld it in with Pilates. And I feel like I've got that, for the most part, pretty down pat. And the interesting thing is, it's like, oh yeah, I know how to analyze scoli. I know how to work with scoli bodies. And then clients come to me and they are emotional messes all over my studio. I mean, I could mop my floor with the amount of tears that have been shed. I mean, even yesterday, I had 3 clients cry in my studio.
And we sound like we have similar practices.
Oh, and so that's what I'm elbow deep in right now. It's like, oh man, scoliosis, the physical aspect of dealing with it, that is mind-blowingly challenging.
Yes.
To understand the twists and the turns. I call it 16-dimensional. We've got the lateral curves, we've got rotations, we've got them going down in the limbs, we've got the fascia, we've got all this stuff. I still only think that's 49% of the situation when you deal with clients that have scoliosis.
I just got really excited for the rest of it, more than I was for the rest of our conversation. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I'm right now in my spare time, because I'm a nerd and with bodies and stuff, I'm reading a book on PTSD and how psychologists are dealing with that, because I think almost everyone that has scoliosis has some form of PTSD.
Well, absolutely.
And that might be minor, like lowercase PTSD,
sure,
because it's how a doctor who has really cold and bad bedside manner, how they introduce and how they confront parents that say, hey, your child has scoliosis. I'm sorry, go have spinal fusion surgery. Or they wake up in the middle of a spinal fusion surgery and then it's capital PTSD. Or if it's a helicopter parent, how they're dealing with them, or it's body dysmorphism and how those other people are dealing at school with you. Or
I've run in a lot of times to the entire motherhood journey with either people being told that they can't have children or trying and unfortunately losing pregnancies. That's a whole other dimension too that I think maybe doesn't get spoken about too much, but keep going.
No, absolutely. And on that note, I have scoliosis myself. I have 2 healthy boys. I delivered vaginally. I asked for the best person who was dealing with anesthesia that day when I gave birth, and I was like, I need you to do my epidural because it's not going to be straight.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. But besides that, everything was totally fine for me. Like, it didn't even cross my mind that you couldn't have kids if you had scoliosis. I have been floored at people coming to me, emailing me, contacting me through social media, talking to me at conferences, telling me my doctor told me because I have scoliosis, I won't be able to have kids.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I feel like it's one of those things, like, you know how everybody in Pilates will say belly to spine, like inadvertently. And I feel like with scoliosis, that's one of the stories with doctors. It's just like on the list of things that you're going to say to somebody if you're not paying attention, or if you're just going down protocol. It's like, yeah, you're going to have problems, back pain. You're going to need a back brace. You probably need spinal fusion surgery, or you can't exercise the way everybody else can, and you won't be able to have kids. Okay, see ya. Like that's the worst of the worst. Not all, but from what I've heard from clients of mine.
Get a load of this. So yesterday, I was oh my gosh, the stories keep coming. So yesterday, I was working with a long-term schooling client of mine. Lots of emotional baggage with this client. Had an eating disorder when she was younger, over a 50-degree spinal curve now, 2 gorgeous looking kids. Like if you look at their family, it's the mom and the dad, it's like Ken and Barbie. I mean, like for real, you're like, I want to look like you guys. You guys are amazing. But the emotional trauma this person has gone through for a myriad of different reasons. And yesterday she comes in and you could just see the darkness hovering over her face. And she's like, I'm having such a hard day, Erin. And I'm like, okay. Well, we are not doing Pilates today. Today's a therapy day. And so she's been battling a UTI for a while. Like, I think it was like UTI turned into yeast infection. It's like, okay. You take some antibiotics and then you deal with some little bit of yeast overgrowth. A normal person, it's like, not a big deal. But because like what you're talking about, belly to spine and all that stuff, because of where this is located and because her scoliosis is so low in her lumbar spine, there was 5 minutes of crying, like upheaval crying in my arms yesterday. Like my shirt was soaked with tears by the time this was done. And I don't feel equipped to handle this. I feel like I need to go get my doctorate in psychology.
Oh, I'm pretty sure, like, I like to do this with the listeners. Like, if you have ever felt this way, put your hand up while you're driving in your car or listening in your earbuds, because how many of us have been in this situation where we access such a deep relationship with our clients? We're seeing them more than their family members in many cases. They're telling us intimate details of their life, whether or not it's warranted. And you're just like, I totally get how to, facilitate some muscular, awakening in your body. But this part, I don't really understand. And I think in that moment, like, all we can do is be the best human that we can be, at least before other skills are gotten. What was your strategy in that moment? Freak out?
Internally freaking out, but externally being as calm as possible.
Yeah, right.
I cannot give what I do not have.
Boom. Yeah.
And I even realized, so years ago, so I moved to New York City when I was 18 years old, which was 2 weeks before 9/11. Yeah, great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, great timing on my part. And went to go to business school, and within that year ended up hospitalized for panic attacks. Fast forward, they put me on some silly, stupid medication, which didn't do anything. I realized I needed to calm my mind and all that stuff. Did yoga, did all that stuff, ended up in Pilates. Life was great. You add on kids, you add on 3 businesses, you add in a full Pilates practice, and you can't shove that stuff down anymore.
Yeah.
And so I have been going to see a psychologist for the last multiple months, and it's been fabulous.
You found a good one.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would suggest any practitioner any Pilates instructor that has stuff that is manifesting within their own bodies, panic attacks, stuff that if it is internal and it is not handled with, it will become manifested within you, within your body.
Yeah.
And it will come out. If you don't have that stuff dealt with, you can't help your clients.
Fully. Right. I mean, I think there's a spectrum of like what they're looking for and what's possible in a session, what they're looking for, what they don't know they're looking for, don't know what they need. And then all of that, compared up against what you can actually offer with some level of confidence and professionalism. But I'm with you. And I want to put a tag on that says like, sometimes you got to go through a couple of good therapists and there might be nothing wrong with them. Everything might be right, but you just don't have that, connection point to actually be able to go to where you need to go in your own head. I recently broke up with mine, not because I didn't love her. Actually, she was great. She was great, but I just found that every single time I left the session, I left feeling so much heavier than when I walked in. And I also felt like it just was becoming a dumping ground for all of the things that I kind of didn't want to be spending energy on, like, you know, just bitching about stuff that happened at work or social media or with people in my life, when it's just like the moving on approach is a lot more healthy for me because I have stuff to do. And also I'm looking for somebody right now who I can go kind of deeper into the actual shadow element of what's happening right now in my life so that I can gain tools from it rather than just like needing a receptacle to complain to, you know? So there was nothing wrong with those sessions. There was good that came from it, but I think that it was empowering for me to say, I need something different right now. And then to be able to say, okay, we're going to take a break, or I'm going to, you know, pause what we're doing right now and see if I could find something else.
That's wisdom. That's great.
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree with that. And when your clients come to you and all they know that they're in pain, they don't know what that pain is. It could be physical pain. It could be emotional pain. If you have emotional pain that hasn't been dealt with, you cannot help them sort through the physical and the emotional.
No, you can like maybe put a Band-Aid on it for a half second, and that just becomes frustrating too. I think if sometimes people can have a little alleviation of what's going on through movement, but then you think that maybe as a teacher you've gotten someplace with them, and then they come back next week and they're like, nope, it's back. And it's just like not progressive for anybody, I feel.
Yeah. I had a client, it was maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago when I started working with her. She had congenital scoliosis. So she had some malformation of some of her lumbar vertebra. And the only way to deal with congenital scoliosis is unfortunately surgery. The bones, if it's the shape of a triangle, I cannot make it a square no matter how fabulous of an instructor I am.
Yeah, right.
I can't do that. So when she was younger, she had surgery. And then unfortunately, I think she had another surgery afterwards. Surgeon didn't do a great job. A massive 45-degree listhesis happened on the vertebra above the fusion. And now she's left in, 45 years old with this massive listhesis and nerve pain and all that stuff. And she was on the reformer one day. She's been, every practitioner, every. And she ends up at my studio. And I was like, I would love to work with you. Deep breath. Okay. So she's on the reformer and she has some serious imbalances. And I talk about how to find these imbalances in my book, Analyzing Scoliosis. So I'm working through, what research says are the muscles that are not going to be weak, that are going to be weak and aren't going to be strong. So I'm working through this. I already have a game plan. She's on the reformer. She's laying down. We're doing basic footwork on 3 reds. And I look over and she has tears streaming down her eyes.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, what do you feel right now? And she said, I feel fear.
Did you say feel or fear?
I feel fear.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm okay if you feel fear because I know how to make you safe. As long as you don't feel physical pain, I'm going to be here right next to you and we're going to get through this together. So for the next 30 minutes, she's continuing to cry as we are working through movement for the first time. And at the end, she's like, I didn't feel any physical pain. Mind you, she'd been crying through the whole time and I'm emotionally exhausted.
Yeah.
But I saw her she came into a group class. I hadn't seen her for a few months. She came into a group class last week. I was like, how you doing? She's like, oh, I'm fabulous.
That's great.
I was like, you mean your listhesis is fine? She was like, oh, I'm sure I still have it, but I don't have any nerve pain down my legs anymore. I'm doing great.
Awesome.
And your mind just it's exploding. And you're like, what do you mean? You had nerve pain. And obviously you knew the exercises and you'd been doing all this stuff at home, but I'm like, how much of this was mental?
Right. So Erin, let me ask you a question, because it's at this point that a lot of teachers will kind of attach themselves onto this role of healer fixer, or, I help people move pain free. And we know that there's truth in that sentence, but we also know that the spectrum, how many degrees did you say? Or
16 dimensional.
Yeah, 16 dimensional. We know that there's a lot of other factors that go into the condition of being in pain and getting out of pain. So what's the process, or even, the strategy or thought process that you go through that doesn't pull you into that God complex of Pilates teacher, but keeps you grounded?
My goal, and I tell all of my clients this, I tell everyone at workshops this, my goal is to have every single Scoli client in the world own their scoliosis.
Okay.
I will not own it for you. Parents of kids with Scoli, you want to own their Scoli, but you can't. No matter how much you want to do it for them, they will leave your house one day and you cannot own it for them. And so my goal for my itty bitty little babies that I work with who are 7 years old, who come to me with Scoli, from day one, I try to take emotion out of the Pilates session. So I truly believe emotion starts to boil up with people that have scoliosis because they don't know fact. They don't know the facts about their scoliosis. They don't know where it is. So in my book, Analyzing Scoliosis, I go through this process of putting dot stickers on people's back. And then we draw out their scoli. And then we use a scoliometer and we find out the degree of rotation. And we put all these things together. So all of a sudden, the emotion is not there. We get anatomy books out. Even my little kids, we get anatomy books out. We look at it. We look at our skeleton in our studio. We look at my back. We look at mom's back. We look at some of my other teachers' backs. And then it's not emotional.
It's like a getting to know you process instead of having it be a total mystery.
Absolutely. One of my 12-year-olds came into the studio one day. She was like, "Miss Erin, the fascia in my rib cage is so twisted today. I need your help untwisting today."
I love it.
I laughed so hard.
But isn't that empowering?
We've arrived.
A 12-year-old can come in and speak their needs. I mean, like, even on a grander scale, when a young woman is able to speak the needs that she's sensing within her own body, like, that sets her up for a lifetime of being able to tell people or request or understand what she needs to feel better in herself. I love that. I love the movement away from, like, teacher as all-knowing source of miraculous movement to student gaining information that helps them create dialogue about what their body needs and wants in that moment. Like, amen to you, babe. That's awesome.
So, and that's one of the things is some Pilates instructors I'm very aware are different than I am. I do not want to work with a client 3 times a week. I just don't.
Can we just pause on that for a sec? Let's just give permission to say that it is all right to not want to take on that load.
Oh, dude, it's so heavy, Jenna.
It's so heavy. And I want to circle back in a second to, like, that emotional exhaustion that happens when you're dealing with somebody who's processing emotion in your sessions. But I don't want to interrupt your thought. So you don't want to take on a client. You don't want to see a client 3 times a week. Yeah. I understand that 100%.
Yeah. So I have my 3rd studio now. Had my first studio, sold it when my kids were really itty bitty, had a private studio for 7 years. Now I have another studio. And my studio it's called Spiral Spine Pilates. It is an extension of my company, Spiral Spine, that offers scoliosis resources of a myriad of kinds to people around the world. So my studio has become a very safe haven for people with scoliosis of all fashions and forms, and of every other random condition that no one else will work with. So spastic cerebral palsy, Scheuermann syndrome, full spinal fusions, the list goes on. They all end up at my studio. It's too heavy for me. I can't.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I opened up this other studio was I need people to help me.
Yeah.
My goal is to work with them for the first handful of sessions, analyze what the heck is going on, because most of the times what they think is going on is not what's going on, which is why you have to understand how to analyze the body. Even if they're like, that's okay, I have a stereotypical upper right, lower left curve, you know, I had it since I was 13 years old. That's not always the full story. And, you know, they get attached to me and they want to be with me. They want me to be their Pilates God forever. And I'm like, I won't. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I can't carry that burden. So I hand them off to other teachers, or they can take some small group classes at the studio. And I always say, I am available. I am not firing you as a client.
Right.
My schedule is crazy. I am here for you if you need me. So just know you can always come back and take a lesson with me, but there are other people that can also help you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that at some point in time, maybe, you know, 80s, 90s, when Pilates was starting to bubble up to the Hollywood surface, it was like almost seen as this, there was a dialogue shift where people had personal trainers and had Pilates teachers as not only part of their wellness routine, but like as an accessory to their life. I mean, honestly,
Totally.
like,
I laugh because I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think the shift that many of us who got real tired over the past, 20, 30 years of like, and I just want to be, I'm always kind of playing two sides of the coin, but I do want to be respectful and say that, there's a good deal of work that we do that in helping a client. Some clients need more than others in terms of guidance and teaching. And there's a real reality that so many of us get real comfortable in the role that we're in terms of like being this person's person. And I think we trip into codependency, and therefore we can be with people for far too long, or we can take on more than we're inviting them to take on within their movement, within their own body. And I think that this movement towards like, let's get our clients involved with the dialogue, let's give them some vocabulary to use, let's start engaging with them, and let's also let them know that they can do this with either other people or not with us, so that we can continue to, be in the roles that we're supposed to be in terms of like maybe for a short period of time. I mean, I always go back, I'm rambling a little bit, but this is such a relevant lesson for me is, when you remember like senioritis, when you get into high school and you're a freshman, you're like, oh, everything's new. Where am I? Who do I belong to? Like, I don't know where to go. And then by the time you're a senior, you're ready for something else. And I think in much the same way, when we work with people consistently for a period of time, whether it be 4 years or longer, it's at some point there needs to be a shift so that things get stimulated differently, and the learning and growth on both parts gets.
I would absolutely agree with you. I always get excited. So most of my long-term clients end up owning really nice Pilates equipment at their house.
I love it.
It's such a fulfilling day when my client sheepishly comes into the studio and says, Erin, I think I want to buy a reformer for my house. And I'm like, yay, let's have a party. And I'm like, yes, let me help you. Let me look at your quote. Let's figure out the best thing. Let's figure out your studio for your house. And then you see me once a month, and you come to the studio for 2 group classes, and then you stream these videos at home.
Love it.
Work yourself out. I'm like, girl, you could be a Pilates instructor with all the work that you've done with me.
Totally.
Yes, so proud of you.
Or you could just do it without an appointment.
Exactly.
I mean, that's also a thing,
And I think that a lot of Pilates instructors, going back to the therapy piece, there's some unmet desire within us, some unfulfilled something, some trauma in the past where we become codependent and we want to lord over people, or we want to be this crazy
guru.
Yes.
Totally. I've been there too. I have 100% been there. And I probably wouldn't be able to say that if I hadn't remedied or rectified that.
You made peace with that. And I would say most Pilates instructors, and being a teacher trainer myself, we get to the point, almost all Pilates instructors start in the industry as a teacher trainer saying, I want to do this, and I think this can be an output because I want to help people.
Yeah. I was just talking about this yesterday on Instagram Live and saying that while that is a really, it's in alignment with our role as teachers, and it is a noble purpose statement, but it's too general. And it leaves us open for way more hijacking than I think is necessary in the terms of like codependency, where I've mentioned this before, like I've heard of certain teachers like being present for their clients' surgeries of sorts, like going into their homes after. And I know there's a degree where all of this might be okay, but I just think that like the boundaries in our work are so in the gray zone so many times because we think, I want to help people, and then we haven't determined what that help actually looks like. Like, do I want to help people gain a vocabulary about their movement practice? Do I want to carry the load of their emotional baggage as well as their movement needs and see them 6 times a week? Do I want, what is it? What type of help do you want to do? So I think helping people is a really good step one, but we've got to get so specific about what it is actually, because then you find yourself in burnout with a lot of like really complicated intertwined relationships that are hard to let go of. And I know, again, like raise your hand if you if you understand this. Yeah.
I woke up this morning. I had ignored my body for the last few days because I had been so caring for a lot of clients, and
you didn't have it left.
I had nothing left. 8:00 last night, mama was done. I was toast. Woke up at 5:30 this morning. My spine hurt, and I knew why. It's because I hadn't moved. And I usually wake up, do Bible study, have some time mentally to myself for like 20 minutes. I said, you know what, Jesus, you're going to be with me this morning when I move. I turned on I didn't even have the wherewithal to like self-motivate myself to move on my own and create my own pattern. I put it on DVD of like some Fascial Trains movement DVD. My body always feels fabulous after that. I turned that on, had a cup of tea, had water. I think I was awake for like 2.5 minutes by the time I turned that on. I was so unstable. I could barely stand on one leg this morning. Hair was in my face. I had like my sweatpants on, and I was like, that's what you're going to get today. Enjoy the movement, Erin. It's okay,
I'm so with you.
It's okay.
My movement practice first thing in the morning is like the ugliest, most disgusting thing you've ever. It's like sometimes the mouth guard is still in because I'm still sleeping. It's not good. It's not Instagrammable at all. But
are you sure, Jenna? I think everyone would really, you know what? It'll ground everyone, and it'll make everyone else feel a lot better about themselves if we get the mouth guard 5:30 Instagram post.
Oh my God!
All right, out there, Jenna.
Okay, I will tag you. I'll tag you in it next time with the bed head and the whole.
I should have taken a picture of me this morning. But you know what? There's a lot of grace in that, and showing people that you do not have to have your diamonds and your pearls and a full coat of makeup and full Lululemon garb. It's okay,
or even a bra.
I didn't have one on this morning either, Jenna.
It's a little scary post having a child to work out without a bra. It's a little like, whoa, how did that get over there? But you know what? It happened. And it happened, and because of that, I'm balancing on my furniture chair with spontaneous zest and pleasure and having a good time this morning. It's amazing.
Oh, that was fabulous. That made me laugh.
So I want to backtrack a little bit, because one of the interesting elements of your history is that you were a Rockette. And so immediately when I read that, I was like, oh, how interesting, because we know with the Rockette's lines are everything, and we know with scoliosis, curves.
We don't really have lines.
Right. So tell me a little bit about that experience, and when did you understand that you had scoliosis? And then how did it come to be? Like, what were we saying earlier, that at some point everybody has that moment with it, where whether it's a positive diagnosis from their doctor or a negative one, or a relationship that's formed. Tell me about those earlier days dancing and working with that.
Yeah, I was diagnosed at age 14 with a 17-degree curve. Pediatrician did the forward fold test. I was like, oh, one side's higher. My mom's freaking out. Go to an orthopedic surgeon, which is the immediate line that pediatricians always take. Go there. He's like, yeah, you got a 17-degree curve and you have some spinal fractures. I don't know why you have spinal fractures. All right, well, as long as you don't hurt, you can go back to dance.
Oh my God.
So honestly, it was the best thing that happened to me. Nothing.
Yeah, right. Because you didn't have anything in the way, right?
I mean, I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
So, and truly, truth be told, I am not a big fan currently of scoliosis screenings. I know everyone's probably like jumping in their chair and saying, oh my gosh, Erin, what? Because the line in the medical world, I think, is a bad one. Because right now it goes straight to an orthopedic surgeon and they're going to tell you when they can put rods in your back. That is not the answer.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that a little bit off air too, where it's like everybody remembers that moment of, this was in the 80s, of going into like the gym teacher's office and doing the dive forward and then like wondering if you were going to be the one with the back brace. I don't know if that's just my situation, but that was the deal. It was like, on the one hand, for me, it was interesting to have somebody look at my back. On the other hand, it was like, oh God, please, dear God, no, because what would that mean in terms of the social ramifications of this? But yeah, I agree with you. Like, cool, go and do what you're doing. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. In my spare time, someday I want to set up a foundation where this is all fixed and we can go into schools with proper education and people understand the path in which to take at that point.
Yeah.
Currently, that's not going to happen in my spare 2 seconds in a day. That will happen someday, though. But I was ignored and was in a pre-professional classical ballet school where we got to stare at ourselves all day, wearing tights and a leotard.
Did you have color coding?
Oh, we did. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
That was
me too.
Right there, Jenna.
Yep.
So went to New York, was a massive disappointment to my ballet mistress because I did not go on to dance with a dance major or go on to a ballet company. I went to go to business school. So went to business school and had my parents pay for me to go to school in New York City. And by the way, I was doing dance on the side. So eventually I got a gig dancing with the Rockettes and just pure willpower. Day before opening show in my first year, I was in such excruciating knee pain. They brought me to an ortho's office after hours. They gave me knee braces, told me I had to ice my knees for 30 minutes after every performance, do PT, have massage, take Vioxx, take Mobic, have lidocaine patches. Needless to say, there was a little bit of an emotional battle through my first year of Dancing with the Rocks. So at the end, the manager told me, Erin, you need to re-audition next year because you're not strong. Go do Pilates. Oh, I was pissed. I was like, what do you mean I am not strong? I just did the hardest Rockette show that has ever been choreographed. I did 4 shows most days. What do you mean I am not strong? She was right. My quads were strong. My hamstrings were strong. That was pretty much it. Back was really strong. That was pretty much it. So started doing Pilates at the Kane School of Core Integration in New York and realized, inner thighs had no strength. Core had no strength. Fell in love with Pilates, got to throw the knee braces away, got to stop all the medications. It was fabulous, pain-free for a long time. Decided I would do what any other normal person would do while I'm finishing up my honors degree. I would take on and become a Pilates instructor go through the program in 6 months because, every normal logical person would do that. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at. And then, so did that. And during my time at the Kane School, yes, I had scoliosis, but I was diagnosed, I don't know, 7 years ago, just like everyone else. I don't have it. It happened a long time ago. No, I still had it, but I never really thought about it. I worked with someone at the Kane School for the first time that had scoli, and I got to see the power of what muscles can do. And I got to see a vertebra shift over for the first time. And it was like, this is crazy. Again, still didn't think that I should be doing this for myself because I don't have scoliosis because that happened so long ago. Moved to Nashville, with my husband, opened up my first studio there, and parents started coming to me. They learned that I had scoliosis and danced with the Rockettes. So they were like, hey, you danced with the Rockettes. You danced at the highest level, that can be danced at, whatever. And obviously you know how to work with scoliosis. So I want you to work with my kids. And I was like, I would love to do that. Putting the show face on. I'm like, yes, I could totally handle you. Yeah. But just with great anatomical awareness, I was able to start decreasing curvatures in kids.
Great.
And in the medical world, that is known as a medical miracle because that does not happen normally. And so the mom of one of the kids, both her and her husband worked at Vanderbilt University as professors. And they said, oh my gosh, we will do anything for you. What can we do for you? You have helped my daughter and she's going to be with you for the rest of eternity until she goes to college. What can we do for you? I said, I want research. I want your research assistants to go into all the files that you guys have. And I want you to pull every piece of research that has the word scoliosis in it. And I want you to give it to me. So they did.
Oh, wow.
So I spent the next 8 years going through hundreds of research articles. I didn't want to make this up. People are too valuable. Kids are too valuable. Adults are too valuable. People with scoliosis are too valuable to mess around and make up a theory that doesn't work. Amen. So my latest book, Analyzing Scoliosis, is the culmination of that. It's taken me, I don't know, from the beginning of it, it was probably 8 or 10 years of going through research. And then the last year and a half of hardcore sitting down and like actually putting it all together into a book that people could actually read. And that's the culmination of that whole process. I read, after I gave birth to my second son, when I was at home, I wrote a little book called The Beautiful Scoliotic Back. And my story, a lot of my clients' stories, good, how people owned it, how people did a poor job of owning their scoliosis, tips for parents on how to deal with the medical world, what some of the jargon in the medical world was. Barely edited. I put it up online on Amazon, self-published it. And within that year, it was, if you typed in scoliosis, it was the #1 book that came up. And my eyes became open to how dark the Pilates and scoliosis world were around the world. And backtrack about 6 months, I realized that I probably should have an x-ray in there about what my back currently looks like. Remember when I was diagnosed at 14, it was 17 degrees. So I don't know how old I was, maybe 30 at the time. Went and had an x-ray. Well, it was at 34 degrees at the top and 24 bottom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, whew. Well, because I had not been doing any of this stuff myself. Because everyone else had scoliosis, but I didn't have scoliosis.
Right.
But what every orthopedic says is, we're not going to deal with you after you're a teenager because
that's it. You're done.
Because you're done growing and it'll stabilize. Not true.
Yeah.
And I mean, scoliosis is a neurological hormonal condition that manifests itself in a twisted spine. And what do women deal with every month? Hormonal changes.
Right.
What do women deal with in their 20s and 30s? Most of them. Hormonal changes with having babies, with having miscarriages, with lactating. Years and years and years of that. And what do women deal with when they're going through menopause? Hormonal changes. So everything that I had heard, theories that doctors had heard somewhere, made up, I don't really know. That was not paralleling with what I was reading in research. And I was mad. I was angry. Like I had a holy indignation to fight for the people that had scoliosis around the world because what was happening to them was not behooving them. It was like I had to fight for justice. And needless to say, that's why I don't like to work with clients 3 times a week because I can't fight for them. It's too much.
Yeah. It's
a lot. So that's kind of my scoliosis journey. By the way, my lower curve is in the single digits, and scoliosis isn't diagnosable unless it's 10 degrees or more. So I pretty much don't have a low curve anymore. My upper curve is in its teens. So yes, even as an adult, you can decrease scoli curves.
Yeah. Well, that's a universal principle. We can create change in our thoughts, in our movement, in our, it's just that I think that if we go into any sort of program expecting perfection or like a total reversal of what we've been doing, then that's a little naive. But to resign ourselves to something that's put on paper is really, I don't know. There's a bit, I'm not saying that, I think there's a bit of a choice to not do anything. Sometimes that choice is informed by not having information.
Right.
Like this is just the way I am.
Yep.
And I think that it's wonderful that you're out there saying, yeah, but there's more.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
And when I was dancing with the Rocks, I danced with them for 2 years. It was not enjoyable because I was in physical pain. Not saying that it was, not saying that the pain was 100% directly from my scoli, but I would say, any form of a misalignment that happens in the spine can manifest itself anywhere else in the body if it's not handled and dealt with appropriately. And so that has been a big thing for me. A lot of people come to me and they say, my goal, I want a straight spine.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to change our goals a little bit.
Good luck with that, because nobody has that. Unless there's a rod there.
And even at that, it's very rarely straight. That's exactly right. So that's the thing. I'm like, okay, let's change our goals. Is my big thing that I work with most people on is, okay, let's have a goal to be pain-free, because we can get there. We can absolutely get there. And most of the time, getting pain-free involves untwisting and straightening the spine a bit. So that's one of the ways in which we get pain-free. But I know what life is like when you have physical pain. And that's not, that's a sucky way to live.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, your mental world just goes down in the tanker at that. And so wise movement and also a healthy mental state brings you a long way.
Yeah. And I think, I'm speaking from a different pain experience than scoliosis. But the permission to move and the act of really dealing with your own fear, I have found, anecdotal, but nonetheless, the truth for me, I have found that through actively creating this dialogue with myself about what is it that I'm afraid of in this moment, what are the choices that I have surrounding what I'm about to do, and like kind of encouraging myself that no matter what's going on, that I'll be able to, that I have choices, essentially, that's been so helpful in bringing freedom back into my movement practice. For me, I'm talking post-hysterectomy, but after, even though the pain was gone, the fear of movement was very real. And so it's been this interesting journey of understanding, like, if I continually create a relationship with this body in its ever shifting state, then I can oftentimes have some really amazing movement experiences that help me, maintain this pain-free situation, but also like feel alive again, which I think is one of the things that fear and pain take away from us. They kind of like put us in this box of, not too much, only a little bit, like just only live a little bit. Don't go full throttle at anything,
One of the things that I have realized in the scoliosis world is that people stop moving for fear that it will make their body worse. So I started creating all these products, all these at-home videos, all these workshops, all these. And I found that people would still email, people would still contact through social, people would still call the studio and say, I don't know what to do. And I wanted to smash my head against a concrete wall. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know what to do?
Yeah.
I created all this stuff for you. So one of the steps that I realized I had to take was redo my entire website, which should be done, in the next few weeks or not, spiralspine.com. And I had to hold people's hand on, okay, here, if you have scoliosis, you're going to click this link and you're going to start here.
Yeah.
And now the next step is we're going to take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is you're going to do this. And it keeps going. And maybe me being so bullheaded, I'm like, well, I got to fix this. I'm going to figure out a way to do this. And I'm like, well, not everybody's like that. So many people are like,
it's baby steps.
Yeah. And fear mongering. We don't know the path that a lot of these scoliosis people have been through
in their life.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know what doctors have said to them,
or family members, or other children, or their own words, or any of it. Like, that's not on the intake form.
That is not on intake form.
Right.
Funny story on that. So, not funny, but applicable story on that. One of my teenage kids was in for a lesson one day. She's like a piece of wet spaghetti, just no muscle tone, really mobile, totally sinks into her body and sinks into a cool teenager pose.
Mm-hmm.
Hip, leg out, shoulder up, looking down the phone kind of situation. And I was working with her, and I could get her into a straight line. I could have her hold it, but she didn't have a lot of muscle tone and didn't have a lot of drive to make that happen. She had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the lesson. Mom started talking to me like she was on fire. She was like, I went online. I found out these exercises. Why aren't you doing these exercises with her?
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, and I was like, okay, we're going to read through the lines here, Erin. I'm like, it's not about exercises. Get to the point here while daughter's in the bathroom. And I looked at her in the eyes and I said, what do you not like about your daughter's body?
Oh, God. How? You're a badass.
And she said, I only had like 30 seconds. I had to get to the point. And she looked at me, and it was like fire was in her eyes. And she goes, I hate how her body looks. I hate how her scoliosis makes her look.
Oh, my heart's breaking.
And I was like, okay. Mind you, the daughter was like totally fine.
Yeah.
She didn't care how she looked. She thought she was great. She could sink into cool teenager pose all day long, and she didn't think anything of it. And
my God, I've got tears on that one.
And I was like, okay, well, what if we make a goal, and our goal is to improve your daughter's posture? Instead of having a goal to make your daughter's body straight, what if you stop having x-rays? Just stop the next 6-month x-ray. Instead, we're going to talk about posture. We're going to talk about how do we hold ourselves, and I wanted to be like, Mom, you need to go to therapy and you need to let this go.
Yeah. Like, smack you across the face and say, do you understand what you're literally ensuring issues with your daughter going forward? And all parents make mistakes, but that one just breaks my heart.
And I see that time and time again. You get these overprotective parents, and they come into the lesson like they're sitting in a chair. They come into the lesson and say, put your shoulder down. You're not doing that correct. Come on, listen to Erin more. I'm like,
yeah. And it's this weird, I think it is this like weird hijacking of love / self-worth image / social issues where they love their children so much. We all do. We love our children so much that we want to give them every single thing. And we see something that may inhibit their quote unquote success or, opportunity in life based on the norms that are set up socially. So parents get impassioned about that, and they want to do all of the things for their kids. And I was just recently talking to, we'll call it a dance mom about, she's a former dancer, and watching her children, it's a conscious choice to have to step back and not get so, you want it so bad for them, but you also have to let them do it themselves. And I was reading, I was speaking the other day about the letdown period after events or success and things like that, how it's very common to be working so hard towards a goal and then feel this sense of like post-performance depression or letdown or what have you. And I'm sure you can relate to that as a dancer. Somebody named it nutcracker depression, which I thought was so apropos. It was like, yes, that is a thing. But in any case, the research that I was looking at was tracing the ability to cope with this sort of cycle, or better cope with it, being attributed back to having access points to disappointment as a child, not like astronomical disappointment, not like trauma or overwhelming disappointment, but like regular infusions of disappointment, just being told no, or having to make it through a struggle, or, you know, being under a bit of pressure to have to shift, to have to work a little harder, to have to understand that you don't always get the things. And it was such a example of how it's okay to, and really encouraged to let our children be imperfect to the nth degree. And yeah, I know it's just it's triggering a lot for me too.
Oh, I know. I'm a mom of two boys, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So in 2017, there came out a fabulous piece of research from Japan showing that some external factors have a correlation with scoliosis. One is classical ballet, one is a low BMI, and one is orthodontics. And
interesting.
Yeah, and I was a culmination of all of those, so no wonder I ended up with scoliosis. And it's interesting. So both of my sons, they've got a little bit of crooked teeth, and they have a little bit of an overbite. And I know I could put braces on them and fix them. And I'm not going to, though, because I don't want to risk having scoli.
Ah, interesting.
And so it's been, as a parent of 2 kids, 2 good-looking kids with a little bit of crooked teeth, it's been a challenge for me to just encourage them and let them own that they're great.
Yeah.
Like, you're great, buddy. What's wrong with you? In America, we have this hyper obsession that we have money and we have power, so therefore we can fix anything, and we should fix everything. We should have straight spines. We should have straight teeth. We should have clear skin. We should have.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, but do you ever think that there might be a ramification? You take Accutane, you're going to have liver problems for the rest of your life.
Yeah. There's a risk with that. With any intervention comes a risk.
And so I think a lot of this is for parents too, and of Pilates instructors. You need to be aware, if you work with kids with scoli, you're not just working with the kids. You're working with the parents too.
Great point. Great. I have not worked with children with scoliosis, but I have been the dance teacher for years, and especially in the competition setting. And you are absolutely working with parents.
And I will say, when I opened my studio in Nashville, this last one, Spiral Spine Pilates, I did not open it in an area that had a ton of scoliosis people. I did not open it for that reason. And my studio is full of people with scoliosis.
Interesting.
Because
word of mouth, right? The parents.
And scoliosis is everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you in your studio just start getting word out that you know how to work with people with scoliosis, you will be flooded with people that have scoliosis, from itty bitties to old women. And you need to understand that when kids come, because they will, if you put word out that you can work with people with scoliosis, because there are people hidden in the walls of your town that have scoliosis that are cowering in a corner because they don't know where to go, and they don't know someone who they can trust with their bodies, that you're going to have to deal with the parents. And you just need to be prepared, because it's going to come. And you need to have a game plan.
Yeah. So like on 9 different levels, I think, just based on everything, what we're talking about, it's boundaries, more boundaries, policies, procedures, a few more boundaries, and then some boundaries, because you're going to have to, like, if you're going to foray into a niche market that has a good deal of people in it, who word of mouth is a powerful tool, then you are also going to understand that you're working with, like you're saying, some people who will have emotional levels of processing that they need to do. Some people have resistance, some parents that will have resistance, children that will have resistance, and all of the thing is going to be a lot of hard, I think, mental and emotional labor in addition to the physical act of teaching. So I think that it's a good reminder for all of us as we foray into these exciting realms of helping people, that we also have to like up the self-care. And so you have like 9,000 resources from your book, Analyzing Scoliosis, the beautiful scoliotic back, my Scoli journal, downloadable exercise workout, hardcore Scoli. You also have videos on Fusion Pilates EDU. I want to ask you to speak to the teacher out there who maybe has their first scoliosis client, or who is interested but hasn't a clue of where to start, like hasn't really even scratched the surface of the information that's available. What are maybe like 3 general tips that you could give someone who is getting ready to jump into the scoliosis pool? I don't know if that's a good memory.
No, yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah. So you need to wash your brain of everything and anything that you've ever heard about scoliosis.
Okay.
So not saying whatever people are teaching is bad, but I've noticed that a lot of people, they say, okay, well, the stereotypical thing that you're going to learn about scoliosis is that most people are going to come in with an upper right, lower left curve. What if the one person that ever comes to your studio doesn't follow that pattern?
Oh yeah. Or like, what if there's a combo diagnosis? So it's not just scoliosis, but it's that and any number of other things. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Following a stereotypical pattern will not behoove that client and may make that client worse. You have to know how to analyze the scoliotic body in front of you. It's that simple. That's what my last book is about. I go step by step on how to analyze the body in front of you. What happens if they don't bring an x-ray? Real high likelihood that's not going to happen. And what happens if they don't know anything about their body? They don't know the degree of curvature. They don't know anything. They don't know where it is. And again, high likelihood that's not going to happen. So what are you going to do? This is where everyone is in the scoliosis Pilates world, who has someone who comes in who doesn't have a typical curve. I even go through, in the beginning of Analyzing Scoliosis, the book, I go through 50 different pathologies that end up leaving people with scoliosis. Yeah, there's so many things that can end. What if you get someone who has polio that ended in with scoliosis?
Yeah,
that's not going to look like an idiopathic curve.
Or osteoporosis.
Exactly.
Primary,
so
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm totally interrupting, but have you ever heard the terminology compensatory scoliosis?
Yes. You mean like a compensatory curve from the major curve, or it's like functional leg length discrepancy and we got a compensatory scoli curve from that other issue? Sure.
It's kind of like a postural, habitual, or like, I've shifted away from an injury for so long that my spine has started to twist in this direction. Yeah, that's there's a lot of backpack Pilates diagnoses that I find revolve around in this world that we like to throw on people. Let's not do that.
No, exactly. And that's part of this thing is, so I break my latest book down into 3 parts. Analyzing the body in front of you. You can't help someone unless you know where the body is. Where are the lateral curves? What's their pelvis doing? What are their shoulders doing? Where are the rotations in their body?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just so in everybody's brain too, like that. I just always want to jump in and reiterate, like analyzing where their body is in this day, in this studio, in this space, not in comparison with the perfect body or the straight line or whatever, like not that it's wrong and you're going to fix it, but so that you know what you're working with. Are we speaking the same language?
Exactly. And I've been so surprised. I mean, I took all the workshops, I've read everything, watched all the videos. And so I felt like I was ready. I never intended to have a company, Spiral Spine. I never intended to put all these resources out there. Yeah. But I have, because I felt ill-equipped, because these people started coming to my studio and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't help them. And I'm in this industry to help them. So you have to know where their body is. And sometimes it puts you through an absolute tailspin. I had a woman actually yesterday, new client. She said she was diagnosed when she was a teenager. So in my head, I've already assumed that it's going to be an idiopathic curve. It's going to be upper right, lower left. So then in chatting, she said she lost her hearing in one ear 2 years ago. Just kind of stored that away. I measured her back with a scoliometer, which is an app that I had created a few years ago to measure rotation in the back. I didn't invent the scoliometer, but I had this app made because I wasn't happy with anything out there. I get the rotations before the class and then after the class, and it gives me immediate feedback if what I have done has helped her back. It's my absolute favorite, most important resource that I have because it gives me the tools to know if I'm actually helping them. So I do that before and after, and her upper curve pretty much all but goes away, and the rotation that she has in her pelvis freaking increased. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I just made her pelvis curve get worse. So she's standing there talking to me, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. What am I missing? And I look at her, talking to me, and she's rotated on a 45-degree curve. The ear that she still has hearing in is facing me. And I realize that she has an additional compensatory curve that she has self-inflicted upon herself because she rotates her entire body so she can hear out of her ear that she can listen through still.
Wow.
I have never read this in conjunction with idiopathic scoliosis. So that's the thing where it is 100% dependent on how you analyze and put the pieces together of the body that's in front of you. This woman had been to so many different PTs, so many different orthos, had so many things shot into that right SI joint that was screaming. Well, it was a simple postural thing that she was correcting herself because she couldn't hear out of one ear.
Yeah, totally.
So now I have a game plan. So anyways, and on all these other medical people, they were like, well, you've got idiopathic scoliosis, upper right, lower left. I don't know why this is doing this. This cortisone shot's going to fix it. No, it's compensatory from her hearing. So anyways, analyzing scoli. And then,
I really feel like there's this, it's going to sound, people are going to not like it, but it's this idea of like teach stupid, meaning that like, don't, you know nothing. You know nothing, you know nothing, you know nothing. You're just taking in information. You're not drawing necessarily conclusions that like the minute you feel kind of like you want to cross your arms across your chest and like nod your head real slow, that's when you know you're in a danger zone of missing something important.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Second piece, you asked for 3. The second piece, and that it lines right up with the second part in my last book, Analyzing Scoliosis, is you need to know what research says across the board with people that have scoliosis. I think there's 7 principles that I put in there. Core work, proprioception, understanding what part of curves across the board need to be worked. And then there's a finding length, derotating with breath. So across the board, no matter what kind of scoli someone has, research has shown everyone needs these things. So while you are researching at home frantically in between lessons and attempting to make sense of the analyzing tools that you have in front of you that you're trying to do with your scoli client, you can actively work on these things. That needs to happen. And then the last piece, the third piece, is the third part of the book from Analyzing Scoliosis. And that is, as I put it in the book, finding your client's recipe. So every client, it's going to be just a little bit different. And I go through muscle tests in there on stereotypically, these are the handful of muscles that will start to be very imbalanced and start to freak out or be very sleepy on clients that have scoli. But because everyone is different, you need to find which ones are the culprit for your particular client. Like your client may say, man, I've been working with you for 6 months. I feel so much better, but my right hip is still a little cranky. And I give you the tools on what research backs saying that these can be problematic sometimes. But because everyone's scoli is just a little bit different and may manifest itself in someone's spine differently, you need to then take the steps and say, all right, today we're checking multifidus. Today we're checking psoas. Today we're checking external hip rotators. Today we're checking rhomboids or whatever it is. And then you start to slowly add tools into your client's toolkit where they can own their scoli. And the best gift that I know when I know that I've successfully worked with someone with their scoli is that I don't see them anymore. Because they've owned it and I have figured out their recipe for them to live pain-free. That's the best gift I could possibly ask for, which is for Pilates instructors whose income is 100% dependent on them teaching. That can be a hard pill to swallow. But that is your goal for someone that has scoli, is that you have figured out their recipe on how they can live without you.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I mean, in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's get them empowered. Let's get them moving. Let's get them exploring. I had a moment with a client the other day who said, hey, I know we're done, but I just have to figure out a couple things on the Cadillac.
That's awesome.
Oh my God. I about like my mouth dropped and she's like, go ahead, go pee. And I was just like, it's been, I think I'm going to guess like maybe 15 years.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations, Jenna.
I know she doesn't want to go. Like, and I quite like this person. So, she's wonderful. We have it's like, those common law Pilates relationships, where she's up for anything. Like we just play and explore. Yeah. I mean, it's long term, man, but I was just like, that's the thing. Yeah. That's it. Yep. That's what I want every single person to do is be like, you're great. And now I'm going to go play with what we've done. Yes, go do it without me. And that's so hard because I was such a, I don't know if I've said this on air before. I was the dancer who would go up to you standing in my space at the bar and stare you down till you moved. Mm-hmm. I was that I don't like it about myself. I was brought up that way. That's what I was, I thought you were supposed to be that way and that you were supposed to, I would always jump with the boys and I would always go first across the floor like that. Like when you earn your spot, you take that spot. Mm-hmm. And thank God life led me in the direction that I was able to learn differently mm-hmm. and be the person who I really am instead of the armor of that thing. Mm-hmm. But, when I first started teaching Pilates, a lot of those old shadows came up where it's like, you got to know everything. People think you know everything. So you got to be able to spout off a bunch of knowledge. You got to tell them that this is what you do for this thing. And if they don't feel it, then there's something wrong with them. And, that period of time. And again, thank God, the direction leads us in different ways to where we're presented with opportunities to learn differently. But the point is that I think that when we are able to put those, when you're saying my client doesn't come back, so many of the egos in our industry will be like, well, what did you do? Because you want to keep them coming back. No, mm-hmm. No way. Like if any, and I don't even think that there's that argument that exists out in the world that says, well, ultimately you want to progress your clients to the advanced work. And then you get to teach that in classes if they get really good and practice on their own. I don't even think that's the thing. I think that if clients take the information that you're offering to them and then they go and do something with it in their own definition, vocabulary, experience, they go and they implement it so that it interfaces with their life, then I think that they might be more inclined to come back to you for inspiration as opposed to maybe continuation, inspiration or maintenance in a way that you get to actually flex the muscles that go beyond the basics of your teaching. And you get to just be like, okay, let's see what's next. And then that helps you progress as a teacher too.
My clients, most of them do not get to advanced work.
Yeah, no, me neither. Who does?
I don't, and I don't put that burden on them.
No, no.
So, and that's the thing. What happens when you have a woman that comes to you with a Harrington rod that hates it in her that was put in 1974?
Right.
I am not going to put that burden on her of saying, well, because you can't do short spine, you can't come to my studio.
No.
Yeah, absolutely not. Because you're never going to be able to do snake. You can't come here.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah. So you're creating a space that is inclusive.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of how, something that you said earlier, that I had to comment on. There's a lot of power and your clients will respect you more when you say, I do not know how to handle this, but I'm going to research it and I'll have an answer for you next week.
I think that's the most powerful thing we can say as people, because it makes it almost diffuses this assumption that some people can have that there's something wrong with them. You know, like if you're the person with all answers and you always have an answer, then certainly their problem, I think, is more amplified to some degree. But if you're the person who says, that's an interesting situation, let me see what I can find out about it. And maybe it's just something that you're dealing with today. It almost diffuses the label of it. Yeah, I agree with you.
Diffuse is a really great word.
Yeah.
I had the husband of one of my Scoliosis clients call me this last week. It was, talk about emotional situation. Freaking out over some situations. And like my heart rate just, and my blood pressure, like it all like skied through the roof. And I just, it was just one of those days. And finally, I just said, I don't know how to handle this, but I will research it and we'll see if we can find another solution.
Yeah.
Phone call was done.
Yep.
Diffuse
That's the being on the team. That's the being on the team. That's bringing it down to a level of reality and expectation.
I am not God. I don't pretend to be God. I am humble and I recognize that I do not have all the answers, but I am hungry for the truth behind dysfunction. I'm hungry for the truth about movement. I'm hungry for the truth about how the body moves. And I will always be having a childlike behavior at looking at the human body, wanting hungrily to learn more about this. If you have that behavior and you have that temperament as a Pilates instructor, your practice will grow. You will have money. Your studio will be full, despite you being a successful parent, launching all of your clients off into college, leaving and never seeing them again.
Yeah, I love it. And maybe that's a better way, rather than my like teach stupid. Like, you know, teach like a child, to teach, you know, have the child mind. The beginner's mind is something that I teach a lot about in my coaching. It's like that idea of it's a really unique strategy that where you answer questions with yes, no, maybe, all of them. Like you don't choose one. You just go, yeah, no, maybe. And you keep an open mind about like how things will land with your clients physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it. But instead of making like very hard decisions in the moment, you have that childlike curiosity where you can gather information and use it to your advantage, or you can admit that you don't know, or whatever it is. It's part of being in a deeper process rather than being like the all-knowing guru.
Totally. I have a gift of being able to work with lots of kids, and it keeps me very humble and brings out this childlike behavior in me because they are so naive and so innocent about their bodies, and they're just hungry to learn how the equipment moves. And I let them make up the names of exercises. Well, what do you think this is? Well, that looks like a twirling unicorn princess. Well, that's a fabulous name for this exercise. As you write on their homework card, twirling unicorn princess 5 times on the right side.
Love it.
And that's the thing is, if you go into on a stressful day with a Scoliosis client or a stressful day with any client at that point, put some glasses on like you're a child. How would you go about this? I have clients that make fun of me all the time. They're like, you make sound effects when you teach, Erin. You laugh too much when you teach. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't take this too seriously. I take Pilates extremely seriously. I read Pilates or I read scoliosis research for bedtime material. So I take this very seriously. But I'm like, you know what? It's okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to put some fun music on and we're going to work out and we're going to get strong and it's going to be great. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
That's such a good reminder too, is that like adopting an adult mindset can sometimes be such a joy sucker that you can have all the stuff behind the scenes, the skills, the education, the prowess, the drive, the motivation, the research, but it doesn't mean that you that are presenting with all of that first. It doesn't really get you anywhere. If you come down to a level that's fun, relatable, approachable, silly, again, diffuses maybe the enormity of what they feel like they're going through that day, you can get so much more done.
Totally. Amen, sister. Preach it.
I'm preaching it. I feel like we had a whole trip to the pulpit today.
Pastor Jenna and Erin.
I didn't even need my third cup of coffee because I had this conversation with you. Like, I'm onto water. It's fantastic. Let's do this every morning, man.
I love it. After workout, wearing headgear and no bras.
Yes. Thanks for bringing that visual of my life back into play. Oh my gosh.
Just gotta keep it real, Jenna.
We gotta keep it real. So you're going right now to teach your face off, and
I know I got a million Scully clients waiting for me right now.
I love it. Well, I'm hoping that this conversation sends you right into that studio with the best of energies, and I am just so grateful for this conversation. I'm super excited for our listeners to hear everything that you have to offer in this conversation. It's just been amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show, girl.
Thank you, Jenna. It was awesome chatting with you.
Happy to know you. All right, my friends, that's a wrap for this week's episode of Pilates Unfiltered. Thank you so much to my guest, Erin Myers. My only thing was I wish she was just a little more upbeat and energetic and passionate. Kidding. Erin, you're amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you also to my sponsors. They are Pilates Anytime, Pilates Nerd, and Profitable Pilates. You can find out more about their offers when you visit pilatesunfiltered.com. There you can also learn more about Erin as well as listen to all of our previous episodes. We have 103 and some bonuses. Pretty cool. Stay tuned next week. We've got a community episode coming your way. And don't forget, if you'd like to be considered as a guest on the show, get your applications in at pilatesunfiltered.com. I'll be sending out invitations the second week in September. Until then, I will see you next week.
You say you'll never join the Navy, that living on a submarine would be too hard. You'd never power a whole ship with nuclear energy. Never bring a patient back to life. Or play the national anthem for a sold-out crowd. Joining the Navy sounds crazy. Saying never actually is. Start your journey at Navy.com. America's Navy, forged by the sea.